Give me a minute. Goodness. Yeah, for some reason. Alrighty. Okay. Okay. We know it would not be my show without some type of difficulties. Right? Right. I have. Yesterday was good. We're going to do a little bit of updating before we go into tonight's show. Um, so as we can see, and you guys cannot, but you guys can. At the bottom of my screen, tickering across is for Para Unity. We are still accepting applications at this time. We still have outdoor space available. Me and the committee just got together yesterday and went over some more things. So that was a plus. So, yes. Yeah. And I don't know why there's like this glare right there. I tried to fix it to where there wasn't going to be a glare. Because the glare will like put a what in the world? There's something sticky on my desk. Something sticky. It wouldn't be me if I wasn't disorganized sometimes. I swear. Anyway, with that being said, if you are signed up for Para Unity 7, we ask that you please. There we go. That's better. I'll just scoot over and you guys can go like that. That's better. Anyway, if you are signed up for Para Unity 7, we ask that you please get your payments in as soon as possible. We are now having a deadline. The end of next month is our deadline for you to get your payments in. If not, unfortunately, your spot will go to somebody else. So that is what we've been I've been trying to get people to do payments. I have yet to still do the email. I will be sending emails out for everybody. So a little bit of fun information. I got asked to do an event in Pearson next month. I don't know if it's been widely talked about. I was just asked last week if I would do it, and I said yes. So on the 29th, I will be doing something with a group of people in Pearson, Indiana. So I'm excited about that. I yet to get all the details, so don't ask me details. Then on September 20th, I will be at the Fall Arts and Oddities Show down at the fairgrounds in Peru, Indiana, Miami County Fairgrounds. Me and Peppy will be there. So we have a lot booked. He won't be at the show at the end of next month because it's an investigation, but he'll be there all the other shows. And then, of course, he'll be there for Para Unity. So Let me shut my door. So yeah, my days have just been like all messed up. For some reason, I wasn't thinking today was Saturday. Anyway, should we get into it? And of course, my mod, one of my mods for TT, she is visiting her son this week, today. So yeah, and I think she's actually one of the ones that picked out one of the locations too. She's been really a big support in all of this, so I'll share it. Anyway, sorry. Eeny, meeny, miny, moo. We're just gonna go right into the dye house. Now, these ones, the two locations that I picked for this week, they didn't have a lot of background that I could find. I dug and dug and dug and dug. Maybe they're, it's just one of those things. They are um, not widely known that I know of. So if anybody on either platform can tell me more about these locations or where to find out more, more about the history and stuff, because it was really hard to find what I did find. So, and I have since found out that I needed to get a new webcam because the puppy has chewed on mine, and while it still works, I don't think she punctured it all the way through, but I want to get a different one. I want to get a better, more high def one. Anyway, the dye house. So we're gonna go into how we're gonna resort back to how I would do the locations themselves. Like go from there, how I usually do it from the ground up. We are going to do from the ground up, but we're also going to go into so as we know, most of the time a location is named after somebody. So like you have the Hannah House, which is named after Alexander Hannah. We have um, the Lizzie Borden House, which is named after Lizzie Borden. Um, we're going to go into a little bit of the history of that person because the locations that I'm going to start doing, the actual person that the location is named after has some darker history of growing up, and so that could also play a part in why the locations are haunted. So the Dye House, it was named after John Dye, and John Dye was born in 1817. And so the name of the battle that I had got cut off. I don't know what happened. Hold on here. Let me see if I can. So he was born January 8th of 1817. And in 1860, he was a. Huh, that's really weird. I'm guessing it was the Civil War because it said Confederate. But anyway, at the time of the battle, he was 45 years old. He ended up marrying woman named Emily. They had five children. Sadly, the first child, not sadly, sorry, the first child was Margaret, and she was born on July 19th of 1859. She had moved out of the house. The next child was Lucette. No, not Lucette. Oh, I hate the lighting in this room. Lucreta. I think it's pronouncing it right. In 1842.
I think Joe
Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta pause the show real fast. Somebody's at my door. Anyway, sorry about that. Martha was born on March 17th of 1845. Just barge in here like you own the place. Unfortunately, the tragedy did strike the family, so in let's see, that's 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to find the fifth child of Emily and John. Oh, 4, not 5. They had 4 children. Emily and him had 4 children, and sadly, after Ruth had was born, Emily died soon after that. And then, so in 1850, the family was living in Mercer County, and then on January.
Dad, she's looking to the needle.
What?
The help bug.
Hmm?
The hand bug, the help bug.
Yeah, a little bit, not a lot. Anyway, January 29th of 1851, he ended up remarrying, and he married a woman named Elizabeth Bottom Dye. Um, she took the last name Dye. And she was born in 1828, and then they ended up having 2 sons. One was Fauntleroy. I cannot pronounce his name. And then he was born in 1851, but died not too long after his birth. And then James M. Dye, who was born in 1852. The family moved to Boyle County and lived in the Dye House, which was a beautiful 2-story columned house. The Dye House was formerly the home of John Dye's great aunt Catherine Dye and uncle Captain Nimrod Greenwood, and his great uncle Martin Dye, who had died in the house in 1822. So that, there was tragedy in the Dye family. He lost his wife, and then he lost a child, and then he moved into his great aunt's house, which had his uncle die. So him carrying, losing his first wife, like his very first love, and then losing a child shortly after that, that could really bring some bad energy, I guess. Um, and then about 1862, they were financially stable. He had a farm that was good. The farm ended up having um, it was 120 acres. It hay, corn, wheat. They had a few cows, horses, and mules. So the farm was doing really good. He was financially stable back in the day. And then his real estate at the time was worth $3,132, which today's inflation rate is worth 80. Well, not today. Not this isn't accurate. This was done a couple years ago, so about $80,000. And his property was worth 8,000, which is equivalent to 202,500. And he had 6 slaves. So his 6 slaves was a father between 50 and 52, a mother 33 to 36, a son 15 to 17, a daughter 7 years, and a son 5 8, son 5, and a daughter 3. So there was a family of slaves that he owned. And then where was this house located? Give me one second. I know I got the location of this house somewhere. Perryville Battle State Historic Site. Perryville in Boyle County, Kentucky. So it's in Kentucky when this is where the house is located. And so during the Civil War, it ended up getting taken over by Confederate General Simon Bolivar Buckner, and Him and his staff entered the house, turned the home into his headquarters. Buckner was commandeered of the Third Division, which included three brigades of Sterling Wood, and at 2 and 3, Wood and Little's brigades marched past the home to get to the battlefield. Um, and then after the battle, the home was turned into a hospital. So they were doing a field hospital. So they were doing arms and legs and being amputated and thrown in out the window. Blood covered the floors and stained it. And still to this day, I believe they said that you could still see some of the stains. And one of the documented soldiers that were in the hospital who arrived at the home was Major William Kilgore, was born in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, and he was the second child of Colonel Ezekiel and Elizabeth. And then in 1861, when the Civil War broke out, he joined Company B, 13th Illinois Volunteer Infantry, and was elected second lieutenant. He participated in minor government engagements, such as a wet glaze, Lane Creek, Springfield, Missouri, and Salem. Okay, so there was a battle in Perryville. So during the Battle of Perryville, is when the house was overtaken. Sorry, this has nothing to do with the house. I don't think. Oh, during the Battle of Perryville, he was severely injured, so he had to go to the house, which was the field hospital at the time. And when the ball passed through his stomach and liver, oh, he was severely injured when a ball passed through his stomach and liver. And one of his command comrades tried to clean the wound by taking a silk handkerchief, soaking it in whiskey, attaching it to a ramrod, and completely running the ramrod with the soap through the wound. Most of the doctors thought that his injury was fatal. After his injury, his men took him to a small log cabin nearby, dedicated his last message home to his mother, the regimental captain William Smith. He was later taken to the dye house. So he was ended up taken to the dye house. Like he didn't start at the dye house, but he was taken to the dye house. Um, and under the battle of like he was under the care of the Union soldiers at the dye house until 1863. And then he was taken to Louisville, Kentucky. Eventually, his sister brought him home to recover on sick leave. So he survived the injury, which by some miracle he ended up surviving. So whatever happened happened, and so after the war, he ended up writing a book and was autographed and sent to J.M. Dye for as an appreciation for him, for the Dye showing him the kindness that no one else showed him. And when he was recovering in the Dye house, the family had to deal with the Union officers and soldiers in their home, not only for weeks, but for months. And to get a feel of how the family must have felt with the Union soldiers in their kitchen, their bedrooms, their living room, only one only needs to watch PBS series Mercy Street, where Union officers took over the Green family's home. I've heard of the Green family home, but it hasn't popped on my list of haunted locations. So, you know, they were a slave owning family, so you gotta know, you have to think that, the tensions were high at this time. They had to be. For, Union coming and taking over your home, and you're a slave owning family. And then there was a document incident where a one of the soldiers was becoming rather fresh with Martha. Martha was getting ready to make bread for the day and walked upstairs to get a bowl of flour. When she was heading back down the stairs, a soldier would not let her pass and stood in front of her. She immediately dumped the entire bowl of flour on his head. Another soldier ended up falling for one of the daughters and proposed marriage to the youngest of Emily, the youngest daughter of Emily and John, but she refused his offer. And then in 1876, Mr. Dye had ended up selling the house, and with the damage to the house and the bloodstains, which was still present today, the family sold their home, never to return to the horror and ill memories. And then in 78, Mr. Dye passed away. So this was a home that seen probably, it's seen war. Two different, the Civil War and the Perryville battle. Um, so here in the Civil War, there was a battle of the Perryville. And that's where the house was located. And the house is actually located on the battlefield. That's why they made it a hospital, a field hospital. And it was one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. So, yeah. So there was two houses on the battlefield at the time. So there was the bottom house and then the die house. Um, I have actually need to write that down. But they were pretty close together. They were really close together from what I could remember in my research. So yeah, that is the die house. Next is the Rose Hotel. And I will look, let me write that down. I will look up the bottom house. Oh, there it is. I couldn't find my sticky pad. All right, let's get into the Rose Hotel. Now, I've not really done much with this one. There was not too much, and it's in Elizabethtown, Illinois, and it's a two-story house that is in the L shape. Um, and the original portion of the hotel was originally believed to have been constructed by James McFarland and operated as a tavern and later as a boarding house to serve the Ohio River travelers. Um, and then, of course, like all like historical places, it was on the it is owned by the Historic Preservation Agency and underwent major renovations that costed $1.6 million. Um, thank you, David. And in 1972, it was put on the Registry for Historic Places, and it was constructed in phases, 1830 and 1848. And then, following the Civil War, a striking veranda overlooking the Ohio River was added around 1866. The building has been restored and it is today used as a hotel and bed and breakfast. A frame gazebo built around 1882 is located at the front lawn of the hotel overlooking the river. And it's a historic owned site by the U.S. state of Illinois. So it's located in Illinois. Like I said, it's located in Elizabethtown, Illinois, and it's on the banks of the Ohio River. The oldest wing of the hotel was built in 1812 by James McFarland and is one of the oldest structures in Illinois. In 1891, Sarah Rose Baker, a widow who had worked at the hotel for 7 years, purchased the hotel from the McFarland family. The hotel passed to the daughter, Charlotte Rose Gullett, upon Sarah Rose's death. In 1939, it remained the Gullett family until the state of Illinois purchased the property in 1988. And a large restoration project was to complete in 2000, and the hotel opened up again for business.
Is this still good?
Where was it?
My tea
Where was it?
on the kitchen.
It wasn't in the fridge, no.
Okay.
Let her out. The hotel is currently so while doing the preservation process, it ended up like the outside of it was made to look like it had did in 1889. Um, so as far as the state of Illinois can really look back to as in 1812. the War of 1812. As far as back as they can find that the house dates back to. And it has been 2 millennia and among the most historic places in the state. And then in 1967, the Rose Hotel had shut down. So from 67 until about 2000, from 67 and until 1988, when they started the restoration project. So it sat dormant for that long. So who knows, like, what exactly happened that was inside of the hotel that nobody, it was in an L shape. Um, and it was, hotel bed and breakfast type of thing. So who knows what happened in that time frame? What could, like, people moving in and not supposed to be there? It just, you never know. And then in 88, 89, Governor James R. Thompson recognized it as a piece of historic land. So that's when they added it to the inventory of properties owned by the state. I'm trying to see. So in 1803, Lewis and Clark came along during their travels, and then Mark Twain had traversed the area. So there's no telling. So McFarland had built the hotel. So Mark Twain and Lewis and Clark, they came to the area during that time. So there's no stop. If it was there, which was not, because Mark Twain had built it, and then it just kind of like took over. Um, 25 cents for a meal, a half pint of whiskey, or a quart of beer costed 12.5 cents. Lodging was also 12.5 cents. In 1830, the McFarland's Perry Post was opened, and McFarland was a captain in a local big creek. Blah, 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 blah. So the first of two editions they added, it was in 1848, and then second was 1865. So, like I said, in 1884, Sarah Rose bought the hotel and she renamed it the Rose Hotel. And then she added the gazebo front. I'm trying to get to the paranormal aspects of everything. I know it could run here somewhere. Alright, so, with it being having a questionable history and about, like, a lot of, like, is still not known about the Rose Hotel. Sorry, I was reading what I had put down. So with it being a questionable history and being the oldest hotel and structure, hi, um, in Illinois at the time, and with it being where it's located, just the city has got all kinds of different empty buildings and stuff like that in it. No wonder why it's got a questionable history. And then it's also said to be haunted. And then one group had to go inside of the Rose Hotel and was doing an investigation. They got some really interesting things. And then the second trip they went was trying to recreate the stuff that they had gotten, and they couldn't. It is said that people have seen orbs, mist, hearing disembodied voices, and also some people have said they've seen Miss Sarah Rose themselves. Because, she bought it, she owned it, she renamed it, she lived there, and then it was in her family until the late 60s. And so we've come back to this time and time again that, you know, spirits, if it's residual, you mean there's different types of haunting, different types of hauntings. Um, I have taught my kids that when you see a spirit go through a wall, it's not because they can, walk through walls, so to speak, or they want to walk through a wall. It's because sometimes those spirits have a routine that they did. And who's to say that the wall that you've seen them go through wasn't a door at some point in time? Like, it wasn't a doorway when they were living and they were torn, going through the house. No, thank you. So, and um, sorry, I got distracted. So with that being said, I've tried teaching my kids, don't be afraid of, the paranormal activity that happens around you. You go, and we all know that Miss Maya loves to go with mommy to the Old Oskaloosa County Jail Museum. Really, really, she just barges in here. Anyway, and so of course, the jail hasn't changed much since it's been in operation, but like the Rose Hotel, with it going under restoration project, even with the dye house, there's no telling about what things have been changed. So going through, and if I tell my kids all the time, you don't be afraid of paranormal activity. Just let them know that, hey, I know you're here, and I'm here. Let's just live in this place, together, and not have to worry about anything. There are sometimes you have to really worry about it a little bit, but not too much. Um, but they always know they can always call mom. So, and with that, different things, and I've taught them, a wide variety of paranormal activity that could happen, and told them, a lot of people has different views on different things in the paranormal activity, and different views on different things like orbs and mists and shadows and stuff like that. I just explained to somebody the other day that, he was saying that he could make things happen, and I'm like, well, are you sure about that? Because he really doesn't believe in the paranormal activity. Uh, he is a skeptic believer, And I was telling him that, depending on how much EMF is around you, depending on how much, what kind of, is there underground water, there's many different factors that can make you believe it, that something is happening. And now, me as myself, and me being the way I am, me in the empath medium, there's nothing around this guy, nothing around his home. And because he says if he really thinks hard enough about it, things will happen. And I'm like, there's nothing around your home. You don't believe in this stuff, and you don't deal. He's never been on a paranormal investigation. Yeah, he watches the shows out there, and I'm like, half the time those are dramatized for views. And he seems to want to believe it, so it's whatever, let him believe whatever he wants to. Even though I had to explain to him the other day that depending on, there's many different factors that can play into things. I've seen it happen, but he wanted to argue with me, and I'm like, you want to argue with me on something that you sit here and don't believe in? Okay, cool, whatever. You can argue with me. I don't care. So, but anyway, we got about 10 minutes left. I made it through the whole show. Yay. Don't forget, October 25th is Para Unity 7. We have no more inside spots. We are completely full. I am super excited. Hoping and manifesting that everybody that signed up can be able to join us that day. We are still accepting registration forms for outside. Now, I will warn you, outside, if you do outside, there is no telling how the weather is going to be that day. But if the event that we do have a cancellation for the inside and you're an outside vendor and like to move inside, we more than will. I love you too, buddy. I miss you. Maybe more than glad to move you on into the inside. And then I know you guys can't see it, but you guys can. October 20th. September 20th. Me and Peppy will be back at the Miami County Fairgrounds for the Fall Arts and Oddities Market. We are double booked. I'm double booked on September. So September 29th, I will be doing something in Pearson, Indiana. I've been asked to do something in Pearson, Indiana. And then, of course, September 20th will be at the Miami County Fairgrounds. And then October, we're double booked. Me and Peppy are double booked. The weekend before, Para Unity will be at the Miami County Fairgrounds again, doing an event. And then that next weekend, Para Unity weekend, we'll be back down at the Miami County Fairgrounds. And then we're booked the rest of the year. So, I don't have any locations in mind to do for the next show. I honestly do not know. I'll have to look and see. Thank you, Aunt Carissa. So, yeah, a lot going on, a lot planned, and I'm super excited about it all. My cat thinks it's okay to lay down on whatever she wants. Boo boo. What are you doing? Come here. It's not even that cold in here. Love you too, and thank you. I do this every Saturday night, so try to do this every Saturday night. I try to do 2 different locations every Saturday. I mean, there's sometimes I don't do too, or don't even do it because there's times where I don't feel good or things happen, and I don't do it. It starts at 8:30 and goes to 9:30 because I stream on two different platforms. I stream on here, and then I stream over on FB. Unstable connection. What? Stupid thing. But anyway, I I don't know of anything down in Muncie area. I honestly do not know. And if are you talking about events or are you talking about investigation wise or haunted locations? Oh, so I do have a little bit um of info for that. So I don't know. It's Bar 13 in Pearson is putting on this thing. I'm still waiting to hear back from like the main event coordinator, but you can buy tickets to do like it's kind of like a public investigation, and I will be taking like my own group to one of the buildings there in Pearson and using my equipment and like pretty much showing people how to paranormal investigate or how I would paranormal investigate and going through all the evidence and stuff from what I got told. So yeah. Give me 1 second. All right, guys. I will talk to you later and see you guys next week.